Hi there, I'm Monty Maley. This week I'm going to walk you through Boink Software's new version of their slideshow production software, FotoMagico. This is version 5. I'm using the Pro version and it's great. Out of the gate, it's very stable. It's only been released a month or so ago now. So we're in May of 2016 at the moment. But it really is a stable piece of software. The features are rich, lots of great stuff, and 4K video export, and that's pretty huge, especially for photographers if you really want people to see the full glory of your work. So let's jump in and see how we can make great slideshows with Boink Software's FotoMagico Pro 5.
Okay, so let's jump in and take a look at FotoMagico 5. So the first thing that you're going to need before we actually create a new slideshow, the first thing you're going to need obviously is your images. So I already have a Namibia portfolio here. I'm going to base my slideshow on the Namibia photos and kind of work you through how I created the Namibia portfolio that I released as a video last week. But I'm not going to make an exact replica, but I'll use that as a base. We're going to add to these images as well later, but for now we'll imagine that we're going to use these. So once, I don't recommend that you simply go in and take one photo, export it from here, then another photo from here. You really want to put them into a collection in Lightroom or whatever software you're using. Just sort of put them in some sort of an order, do a little bit of editing before you even start the process, because it'll save you time later. And if you need those images for anything else, you'll be able to get back to them more easily. So do create a collection or something like that. And then when you're done, obviously you'll just do something like a Command A to select all of the images and then export. And I'm not going to go into all of the export details. Obviously, you're going to want JPEG. JPEG's probably the easiest. Use JPEG and sRGB as the color space. And once you've exported them, put them somewhere where you know where they are. And here they are. I've already done this in advance. And then the other thing that we need to bear in mind, obviously, is if you're going to put any video in there, we can do that. Either, for example, I did the time-lapse video. I put that together in After Effects, Adobe After Effects. Anything that you're going to use like that, it's great to just sort of put it in a footage folder. Although wherever you put it, FotoMagico is going to make a copy of it into the project. So these can only be temporary if you want to. But just organize things before you start. And then we'll also drag a few things in once we're inside FotoMagico. The other thing that I have is I'm going to use and you can't even see this because it's white, but I'm going to put a logo into the slideshow. So I've put that as in a graphics folder. And we'll now open up a new slideshow in FotoMagico. I'm going to leave the stage size at 4K. And these are actually really the aspect ratios, but I'm going to go for a 4K video. So leave it at that and open it up. Now, although FotoMagico is probably one of the stablest new releases I have seen so far, there is one thing that I've found trips it up a little bit at this point. This hopefully won't be a problem in the future because I generally forget to do this. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open the settings folder and go to info. And in here, I'm going to add the details first. This is all saved here from previous, probably my default settings. But I'm going to add this first and we're going to save a copy. Because once you start to add images and then save, it can take a very long time to do that. Hopefully that won't be the case for very long. But to avoid that, the first thing I'm going to do is go in and I'm going to give the slideshow a name. Let's use It's All About the Journey. And then the description, I'm going to put in a slideshow of photographs and short videos from Namibia, and then your name, and the organization's already in there. I am going to fill out this copyright statement a little bit more. The photos that I'm going to include are from 2013 to 2015, but the slideshow itself is 2016, so I'm going to leave that as it is. And then I'm going to put all rights reserved. For a legal copyright, you would need your name in there, but I'm going to display this alongside my company name, so that will be fine. And then add a web page, add URL there. Okay, save that. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is to load our images. And so I'm going to hit the images icon down here on the right side. And here we've got a message says drag additional folders here. Okay, so I'm going to move this over a little bit here and then drag this JPEGs folder to there. So that will give us instant access to our JPEGs. Now, you can then, obviously, you can go through and add these one by one if you'd like. If you already have an order that you want to put them into an order, it might be best to actually export them with your images with 01, 02, 03, something like that in the file name. But otherwise, if you just want to, drag them all in and then reorder them later, it's probably best just to do a Command A and then drag them all down to the timeline here. And once we've got them like in this order, we've got obviously the start of our slideshow. We could just play this now. In fact, let's do that. Let's just play it. And you can see that we've got a little bit of the Ken Burns sort of increasing the size, panning and zooming. And then we have a very long transition between each slide as well. And so I like 5 seconds. Let me show you where you actually change these settings. If we go down to the bottom right here again, you'll see that we have an options button here. So if we take a look under there, there's a slide section and animation is enabled and the duration is set to 5 seconds. If you move that, obviously you can make the slides duration longer or shorter. I like 5 seconds, so I'm going to leave that where it is. Yep, here we go. And under the transition, the dissolve is good. I like the way the images dissolve from one to the other, so I'm going to leave that for most slides. And the duration here is set to 2.8 seconds. I'm going to move that to 1 second. I think 1 second is a much better time. Obviously, it really depends on your own tastes. I prefer 1 second. And if we just go down and play this again, you'll see that as each image, that duration of that transition seems a lot more natural. It's a little bit snappier. So the other thing that we're going to be able to need to do is to reorder our slides. So if you click on the gray area down here, it has just deselected them all. And I'm going to go through now and take a look at the order of the slides. So for example, I know that I'm going to want to start with these Milky Way shots. I'm going to bring these down to the beginning of the slideshow. And I'm also going to bring in a bit of video that I want to start with as well. But before we do that, let me just take a look through here. I'm going to reorder all of these a little bit more shortly, but I've just realized that we still don't have another image that I wanted to bring in here. So what I'm going to do is go to the images and show you the other way that you can add images. I've got a whole bunch of things. There's some 70 or so in my portfolio, but I actually want to add some from an older trip. So we're going to go to Photos. Although I use Lightroom as my main image management software, I have also started to use Apple's Photos just as a way of keeping something, a JPEG on all of my devices. So all of the images that I choose as a final select from each of my shoots, I drop a JPEG into Photos just for the ease of access there. So what I'm going to do is, I know that some of these images were from 2013, and I already have, you see, we've even got iPhone photos in here as well. Look. So everything gets thrown in here. But I'm just going to grab this here. And if we scroll down a little, we can actually see some shots from Namibia in 2013. I've added these as albums in Photos, which is why I can get to this view easily. But say, for example, I'm going to take this photo of this young Namibian girl and this little guy here, and I want to add those to the slideshow. And you can see that it's just taking the images from anywhere. And FotoMagico will actually just make a copy of these images. So you don't really need to worry too much about where the base images are. I'm going to delete that JPEG folder from my desktop later as well. But you see, we have a whole bunch of them. I've already got this. There's my buddy Jeremy Woodhouse. I am going to add, let's see. In fact, tell you what, I'm going to leave this area. I'm going to go to 2015, and scroll down. And the reason being, I want this, another Milky Way shot that I didn't include in my portfolio. So that one, I think I'm going to go for that and remove this one, because we don't want too much Milky Way to start with. So you can see it's pretty easy to add new photographs and remove other ones that you decide you're not going to use. In my final version, I actually removed this as well. Now, as you remove photographs, of course, the thing that's going to happen is that the animation that's been automatically applied, you can see here on the left side, this photo of the cheetah is larger than the right side image, and that means it's going to zoom in or zoom out to make the image slightly smaller through the animation. But we don't necessarily want the same. You see here, the next image, it's again the larger one on the left and the smaller one on the right. We don't want the same type of animation happening in consecutive slides. So once you've gone through and moved a few images around, maybe deleted a few, to ensure that your animation is all, if you're zooming in and then zooming out on the next one, it's all working well together, what you need to do is to hit Command A to select all of the slides, and then go to Animation Assistant under the Slideshow menu. You can play around with these settings, of course, but once you've got these set, just open it up and click OK. And then when we go back and take a look at these slides, you'll see that the consecutive image, it's been changed. So this is going from larger to smaller image, but now the next slide is going from smaller to larger, so that we get that nice sort of zoom in. Well, I keep saying that the wrong way around. Zoom out and then zoom in on the next one. And so you can do this as many times as you like, and it's best if you lock slides that you don't want to be changed. But for now, you just get your order right, change images around, remove anything that you don't want to be in the slideshow, and then before you move on, just like I say, so go to, actually, again, Command A to select all, go to Slideshow, Animation Assistant, and just reapply this to make sure that all of the changes that you made still get nice animation applied. Okay, so this is actually the order of the slides that I ended up with for my Namibia slideshow that I released last week. So I've actually just gone back to a copy of that at this point. And the next thing we're going to do is add some video. So you click on the movies button down here. And again, I've already gathered this video. I keep doing I've already added this video into a footage folder, so I'm going to drag that footage folder here, and then we'll see inside that we have these videos now available to drop into the slideshow. And I'm going to take the first one and put it down at the beginning. And if we, right now, that it just looks like another photograph. The only way that we get an idea that it is not just a photograph is the length of time. It automatically has been set to the length of the video. If you move to the timeline view, though, you can actually see that it's a much longer clip. Now, though, when we try this, you can actually see that the video of the time lapse that I made is now built into the beginning of the slideshow. Now, there's a part right at the end of this that I don't quite like. It flashes on where the lights come back on in the. There you see that the lights in the hut that I was staying in came back on. So we're going to adjust the end of the video, and here's how you do that. So go to the options, and under movie, you've got a range slider. And if you bring this in just slightly, we can just drag and slide this. So you can see here, if I drag that in, we can take it back to a point where the lights are no longer off. Let you see that again. See, there you go, the lights are on. Drag it in to the point where the lights go off. There we go. And then down here, we'll see that there's a little bit of a red tail on that bit of video. And if we want to get rid of that, what that's basically saying is that the timing is now too long for the video. So we can just drag that in and make it just right. So that's now down to 23.3 seconds. And that will now give us a much better transition as it goes through into the beginning of the next slide. So the thing that I also want to mention here is that as you add video, you are going to send off your timing of your slides. So say, for example, you have music that is going to give you a good transition at 5 seconds for each slide. Then if you add video that's at different timing, it's going to throw that off. So what I probably would do here, so that we can get back into the timing, and because the slideshow's just getting started really, I would probably move this to so we're at 23.3. I need to take this to 6.7. Either that, or maybe just go to 6 seconds on this one, and then 5.7 on the next one. And then what that does there is it puts us back to a 5 second beat, or the tempo or whatever over these first few frames. You can of course do that any way, and you can also, there is functionality to automatically match music, and I didn't use that, so I'm not going to go into it now. But if you want to, you can just automatically have FotoMagico go away and do all of that stuff itself, and see if it works its magic. The next thing that you probably are going to want to do is add titles. And so I'm going to, right down here, we've got an add title button, and I'm just going to add the first one. Now you can see that it's remembered the color that I assigned. To do that, you literally just need to go to show colors and use this picker. And if you're on a slide, I went to a slide with this color on there and just selected the color, and it's then saved into here. So it's an easy way to match the color palette of your slideshow. For now though, I'm just going to add a title, says a photographic study. And right now we have Gill Sans regular, and for the majority of these I'm actually going to select semi-bold, and for these small particles I'm going to select those and have light. And that also, I think we're going to use I want the title there to be white. So once you've got that, just take it and move it to wherever you want it to be. I'm going to increase the size a little bit, and we'll move this down here. And then right now this title is set. If we just play this, you'll see that it comes on right from the start, and we don't want this to be on all the way through the first slide or this video. So what you can then do is go to the options, and again, if we look here under layer, we've got a visibility. These triangles here will allow us to move the visibility. I'm just going to move this around a little bit, and we can also drag these inside triangles to make it fade. And I'm also going to add a second title here quickly. Let's see, let's just go to, again, in fact, I'm going to copy this and paste it down there as a new slide. You'll see that it's added it here. I want to put this on top of the same slide. Here we go. And I'm going to call this second one, let's see, I'm going to call this second one, let's say Martin Bailey Presents. It's a little bit difficult to see, so I'm going to move it for now, and we will realign these later. So again, I want to have the main part here as semi-bold. See that it needs to be a little bit wider, and I'm going to leave the presents as thin or light, and I'm going to take the start and end points of these and move them again so that these will run in sequel rather than at the same time. And to put these in exactly the same location, if you take a photo, this title here, copy geometry, and then right click the other one and say paste geometry, it'll put it into the same place as the other one. And now when we play this, we'll see that we have, starts with Martin Bailey Presents, and then that will fade out, and then we get the photographic study title. And then after this, I want to add a third title, which is going to say Namibia. Now for this one, I changed the font. I like Gill Sans or Jill Sans, I'm not sure which one that is. I like that font, but I wanted to select something a little bit more Namibia-like, a little bit more suiting or fitting. So I actually selected this Herculanum or whatever it's called and increased the size. Let's take it about 240. I think I might have gone to the max, 256 points. And this is where I actually took I needed that different color. So what I'm going to do, just to grab that color, is go to a slide here. There might be a better way to do this. And I actually, once I have the color, I've noted the number down, so I could just type it in. But just so that I can show you, on here, if we go again, add a title, and then go to the color, show colors, and then take this little color picker here, and then it gives me, you can see that I've got the color set here. I'm going to double click that to select it and copy it, and then we don't need this title anymore. I'm going to remove that, and then in here we can now go to the Namibia title that we've created, show colors, double click the white and type in the color that we've just got from somewhere else. So that way we know that we're using colors in our slideshow that match the overall palette. And again, now that we've got this in place, I'm going to change. I want this to come in right towards the end of this slide, and we're actually going to make it run over into the next one. So I'm going to leave that so that it runs right to the end of the slide. And let's just check the timing. If we go down here, we can grab this, the playhead. We can see that as that fades out, the Namibia comes in. So that's working well there. And then, like I say, I want it to run into the next slide. So I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key and drag this over to the next slide. And that's going to put it in the same location. And this time I'm going to remove the fade out there and then make it fade out once it's got into the next slide. So now you can see that, actually let's go back to the beginning. So as the slides play, you'll see that we get these quite professional looking titles come in now. And I've done the timing very roughly here just to show you. And you'll want to time this to your music. You'll want to do various things. But you'll see that as it comes in, works now. We've got the time. Oops. Okay. So it's changed it. I need to copy the geometry. Oh, I know what's happening. It's not that. So the start is fine here. You see here, we've got the slide. It's because we've got animation turned on, it's actually animated the title so that it moves into the middle. So I'm just going to say copy geometry and paste geometry, and now it won't move as we come into this new slide. It'll just stay there and then fade out. Now you're going to want to adjust your fades. I don't like that. Took a little bit too short a time to fade out for the first one, so you can just really quickly tweak that. But you get the idea. That's what you'll do. You'll build it up with titles and various things. The other thing that I wanted to show you is at the end of the slideshow, if we actually just hit this here to take us right to the end, I am also going to add an ending roll and a little bit of other stuff. I'm not going to go through every element that I put into it, but the first thing I want to do is now on this slide, I'm going to put a title. I'm going to go back to white and actually go back to Jill Sands or Gil Sands. I'll learn one day how that's actually pronounced. And then make it a bit smaller. And here I want to, okay. Let's change this again. Okay, so it's all about the journey And I think I'm going to do the same thing. So maybe we'll go to, oh, actually, we need to select everything and go semi-bold first. And then I'm going to make, this is really just adding a little bit of flair or polish. I'm going to go for It's All About, and then make the light as well. And I think that just makes it a little bit more polished. And then I'm going to move this down to here. Now we could just take the second one and move it, and it's gonna give us that click as we get to the right place. So whether you right click and copy the geometry or actually move it around, it's up to you. I use both depending on where I am and what sort of movement I'm creating. But then the other thing that so actually let's just take a quick look at this. So we'll start that, and yeah, you'll see the road is slightly zooming out in the background. We might want to adjust that. I'm also on this slide here, because I want to keep the same sort of geometry, actually, I'll just go Alt and drag that over. So I've got the same slide over here now. And you might want to just put in something like, thanks for watching. And we'll make that semi-bold, except for the 4, which we'll take back to light. So you might want to do something like this. Thanks for watching, and then it's all about the journey. And then on the last page, what I did was I added a credit roll, and there's actually a really rich, if we go in here to the snippets, there's actually a really rich set of titles that you can select, and these are all brought in automatically. So for example, if I take this one down to the back here, at the end you'll see it's just automatically created a title called Namibia. But if you double click on that, you'll see that it's actually a short code that's taking the title from the settings that we set earlier. So it is important that you include the right information here, because some of the titles that are sort of built into FotoMagico are built directly from that information. Now, the other thing that I want to do is go to this credits thing here. When we have this really nice rolling credits, I'm going to take that and put it in here, and you'll see that initially this is actually off the frame here. We can't even see it, but if we double click it, you see here, we can actually go in. We have to change the zoom, and there's probably a better way to do this, but I've not found it yet. And then you can check here that you've got the right information in, and to do that, just drag it up. You see that it's taking the music and everything from our photos by Martin Bailey, and you can go in and again you can change these. One thing that I did, and I would probably continue to do, is actually change it so that it's all white. I'm not such a fan of having the slightly grey. Here we go. So I'm just going to change this so that they're all white. But then you can go just sort of move up and down here. You literally, I couldn't figure out how to go and see the bottom part. So I was taking these and doing a Command X to clip it or cut the text away, and then you'll want to change these. So music, audio, artists, I actually changed it because I did the music as well. I changed it here, and and I've got rid of the credits for audio. If you use some of the built-in audio in FotoMagico, then you'll need to leave that because it gives credits for the actual music. So it's a good idea to leave that. But I created my own music, so just go in and do this, and then put the other ones back, and then you'll need to just click somewhere else for a moment, and we'll make that smaller again. And I think we'll right click it and make it so that it's central, goes to the edges of the so that it's centralized on the slide here. Need to move this back down so that it's off the frame. Let's just moved it again. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do here is just turn on the make sure that animation is turned on, and we need to then see up here, this is where the animation will end. So I'm just going to align this slightly so that it goes off screen, and then if we play this, we can just check. That's very fast, so we'll need to adjust that. The way to do that really would just be, you see we've got 5 seconds at the moment for this slide. If we give it more time, okay, so let's give it like 15 seconds. If we give it more time, it will go more slowly. Now, of course, the thing is that I don't want Namibia to be sitting in the middle of the frame there either. So the first thing I'm going to do, actually, let's just put in something like, I put thanks for watching earlier, I think, but we'll do that again. And then light. And then I want to just change that so that, say that, for example, that's the last thing that happens on this credit roll. And also a nice slow fade out. Maybe let it go to complete black first. So now when we play this, you'll see that we have a nice steady ending roll. And I think this looks really professional. In older versions of FotoMagico, I used to actually do all of the slideshow and then add this sort of thing in Premiere Pro. But now you can do it all in FotoMagico if you want to. You'll notice that the timing wasn't great. The thanks for watching started to show up a little bit earlier. So, just tweak it. I'm going to move it so that we have, it's not going to let me do that. So just tweak it out so that we get a little bit longer. And then go to this. That's probably going to work better now. In fact, it probably just needs me to, I'm going to fade out the titles as they go up here. Okay, so I'm not going to try to get this perfect. Let's just let this run. If it doesn't look great, we're going to move on. But you get the point. Just tweak. It's still coming in too quickly. We just change it, tweak it around, and you can create some really, really nice looking end roll titles as well. So we've took a look at a number of things, how to add various. We put a video at the beginning. I'm going to add, if we go back to movies, we've got this great clip. This was just shot with my iPhone, but we have this great clip here of this young girl that did a dance for me when we were at the Himba village. Again, you might not want the entire video to be shown. So you can go down here to the range and change the in point. And it gives you, it scrubs along pretty well. So she's doing this crazy dance for me. You'll see also here, we have Dave creeping in the top. So I wanted to just, love him to bits, but it doesn't need to be in this video. So I Just going to move this to a point where, there we go, we have this little bit slow catching up. It's probably because I'm actually recording this. I've got a lot of video action going on at the moment. So just move this along to a point where I feel it's a good starting place. And then maybe change the end as well, just a little bit. Okay, then we need to turn up the volume a little bit so that we can actually hear this within the movie. But let's give this a play. Let's go back here. And then we can see we have the transition with the people dancing. And then we hear the audio as this little girl does her dance. These are great memories. And the iPhone's amazing when you think about it. Okay, so now we can move on and talk a little bit about adding a main audio track. As I mentioned, I actually recorded, I created the music myself, and I did it in a piece of software called Ableton Live version 9 suite. That's really out of the scope of this. So if you want to add music that is incorporated in FotoMagico, let's see, I believe, here we go. So click on snippets, take a look in here. There's a whole bunch of music, and there's a lot that's actually available for free download at the moment as well. I don't know how long that's going to last. But, you know, you can grab your music, put it in. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm actually going to add the audio that I created because I timed it. I made it so that, you know, 2 bars was 5 seconds, so it matched the slide length and all of that. So again, I'm just going to bring this over here, and I believe I've put it under footage. Actually, we need to drag the footage folder to here. Okay, we need to show this, and then you'll see here we've got the Namibia footage. Let's put this back in the middle of the screen. Let's go to the start of the file so that we put this in the right place, and then drag this down, and you'll see that it gets added as a soundtrack to the entire movie. And now we can start to play this and actually have music in there. And once you've done that, you can then start to really tweak your titles and the slides so that they coincide with musical, you know, changes as the music, the beat, the tempo. The other thing that I wanted to talk about before we wrap up is that there's a few other things that I did. Let's see. As you go through the slides, you'll notice certain things, the flow doesn't work quite as well as you wanted it to. You can see, if you look down here, you'll see, let's make this a storyboard view. You can see that this ostrich photo is the wrong way around here. Now, the reason for that is because I thought that after this slide, a left to right movement was going to be more visually pleasing. So I right-clicked it, and here we go. So under layer, I mirrored the layer. This is how it should have been, but I wasn't too happy with the flow. So like I say, I mirrored this. There's something else to keep in mind. And I think I did it with this, let's see, here we go. So this oryx at full pelt as well. You see down here that he's actually going the other way. I mirrored this because it felt better, you know, running from the lions. And we have the next screen here with the elephant this way. So just things like that, aesthetic changes can be done. And a few other things that I'd like to mention, say, for example, you don't necessarily have to stick with the type of animation that's been done. So here, for example, the flamingos are just going from large to zooming out slightly. I want to make these guys look as though they're flying, and I also want to fill the screen with them. So if I go slightly larger than full screen with this, and then move it over to this side of the frame, and again, I want to keep them full screen, I think. But maybe if I maybe to about there, and then I want to take this even bigger so that it looks as though they're flying away from us, but then also moving over to the left slightly. In fact, it's not going to work with too big here. So you see that the tip here, there's more space at the end. Let's just play this and take a look. Yeah, so they're going upwards as well. I don't really like that. So I'm going to use, you see if we go to here, we can get the plane, we get this yellow line, and we can get the plane going along there. Okay, move it a little bit further over to the left here. And then let's play that again. Okay, so you see that they look, maybe a little bit like they're flying. Just those sort of tweaks. But really, that's it. You can see that it's a very powerful piece of software. Once you get to the end, I'm going to actually open the final version now. So let's save this and close it. Okay, if I just quickly play you a few bits from the final version, you'll see how I tweaked it and got it looking a little bit nicer with the timing of the slide transitions and stuff like that. In fact, before I do that, let's one of the shortcut. If you do Control P, then you can actually choose. I've got two monitors here, so if you choose the one that we're actually working on right now, it will go full screen for you. So you see what I'm saying there. Yeah, let's take a look at the actual final. This is the titles that I added to the end of the slideshow as well. So you can see that the timing can be matched pretty well for the thanks for watching and stuff like that. Okay, so once you're finished and you're ready to share your slideshow, go to the share menu, and obviously you can go to YouTube, Vimeo, various things, but there's a few problems here if you want to go with 4K. For example, it's a little bit stupid, but there's no 4K option for Vimeo. Yeah, right. And if you go to YouTube, then you actually have to, you can do 4K, but you have to set it up. At the moment, you have to set it up so that you then automatically upload after you've export, and you don't necessarily want to do that. So what I've done is if you go to custom video, there's actually, I've already got a preset here. there's a few things that you need to know to be able to even export an MP4, because the settings were, I was getting errors when I tried to do this before. The settings weren't great. So if you want to put something on Vimeo, say, or you just want a really good quality MP4, select H264 for the codec, format as MP4. You can do movies, but they're huge. If you need a movie, that's fine, of course. The profile level, this is important. I was initially, I think it was set at high profile 4.1. You need to change this to high profile auto, or it won't. Your export will fail. Hopefully that will be fixed in a future update. But at the moment, just make sure that if you do come in and try and export an MP4 video, change your profile level to high profile auto. And Vimeo, actually, they'll support the really high bit rates. They say between 30 and 60,000 kilobits. You can try this on auto, but if you do it, it'll go really, really high. Generally, you're going to be good with this setting. Even 30,000 was pretty good quality. And keyframes, I added them every 30 frames. And for audio, obviously, just make your settings. I used 48 kilohertz music. The bit rate is 320, so I just aligned it with that. And rendering, for a 4K video, you'll want to put in 3840 by 2160 pixels, and it'll automatically fill out these for you. Change the frame rate if you need it, but then when you're done, save a preset. I've already saved it as MBP 4K. And then if you say continue, it will just export it onto wherever, into a location that you say, and you'll have your video to upload to Vimeo or wherever you want to do with it. Of course, you don't have to do 4K. I'm just saying this because I'm pretty excited about being able to do such high resolution video. One other thing on that, although I exported this I created this time lapse at 4K. The video that I put in of the dunes, the sand dune with the sand dancing on the top and the little girl dancing, these were only 1080p video, but they look fine on 4K. And I've actually reviewed this on a 4K television 55-inch screen, and they still look great. So if you don't have all of your footage in 4K, don't worry too much about that, because your photographs are going to be the main thing, and the 1080p video looks fine anyway. So, but that's it. We'll wrap it up there. That's been quite a long one. Sorry about that.
Well, thanks very much for listening today. I hope that was useful. I will put some links into the blog post for this week's episode, and that will be at mbp.ac/523. So I hope to see you there. And leave a comment as well. Get involved in the conversation on the comment section below the post on the blog. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try and answer them as best as possible as well. Okay, thanks very much. See you again next week. Bye-bye.